First of all, many thanks for talking for Al Jazeera. Being on the list of the most influential Muslims here in Great Britain, you could stand behind so many different political and social projects, but you have chosen to spread the truth about Srebrenica genocide. What about Srebrenica made such an impact on you personally?
Srebrenica was the worst atrocity on European soil. It continues to have a deep impact on the rest of the world as well as in Europe, for all the communities that remember it, all the communities that actually experienced it. So for us, this was the atrocity which was so horrific, so unimaginable, that there is absolutely no human being, in my view, that shouldn't be behind Srebrenica and what happened. Because the Holocaust was the worst atrocity during the Second World War, but Srebrenica was the worst atrocity after the Second World War. And for us, if we were to ensure that we create a better world, if we were to ensure that we create a cohesive world, a world where we can respect people's religions, we can respect people's differences, and we live in a world which is peaceful, we have to get rid of the hatred that is being promoted. Srebrenica was the result of the hatred that was promoted, but also the result of the failures of the international community. And this is something that all of us need to work hard to ensure that this doesn't happen again.
Thanks to the Remembering Srebrenica initiative, hundreds of British students in the past 5 years learned about what happened in Srebrenica. Do you think that those kind of lessons are important in a way to prevent such atrocities in the future?
Well, it has to start from early age. And Remembering Srebrenica in the UK, we do three things. We work in schools, so we teach children about Srebrenica. We teach children about the consequences of hatred. So far, we have taught 75,000 children across the country, and we will continue to do that. We do it through education programs. We have school assemblies, we have education pack, we have school workshops. That's one thing that we do. The second thing we do is we take people to Srebrenica on the Lessons from Srebrenica Visits program. That's a 4-day powerful program where people bear witness to what happened. They see the mothers who've lost their sons, their husbands, their fathers, their brothers. They pay respect at the Poricanje Memorial Complex. So they bear witness to the atrocity that took place, and then they come back to the UK to become champions against hatred, to become champions for those mothers, to ensure that they teach the world what happened, and to ensure that the candle is lit, that is not something which is forgotten. The third thing we do is we have the world's largest Srebrenica commemoration in the United Kingdom. We had last year 2,000 memorial events across different towns and cities in Britain, in schools, in churches, in synagogues, in town halls, in police forces. We had 2,000 memorial events, and then we have the national event in London. So it is the biggest commemoration that unites communities to remember, to reflect, and to make a pledge that this will never happen again. So by bringing communities together, by empowering young people, by teaching young people, I believe that you can create future generations who will be equipped, who will be empowered to ensure that they raise their voices. Those young people who become politicians, those young people who become business leaders, who become influencers, that they on their conscience will have Srebrenica on their minds, and they will, we hope, will play their part in ensuring that this never happens again.
And that's not the only thing you have done for Srebrenica and Bosnia and Herzegovina. You played very important role in attempt to have UN resolution on Srebrenica. But we know what happened when British initiative came to the Security Council. Russia put the veto explaining the resolution was being politicized. Do you think that such resolution in a form which was presented to the Security Council members would change the way Srebrenica is portrayed on the world political map today?
I think people who have committed the crimes should be prosecuted, and those people who are glorifying those perpetrators need to stop glorifying. They need to accept that this was the genocide. They need to respect the verdicts of the court. Imagine if Germans still glorified Hitler. Imagine if Germans were still saying that what they did to the 6 million Jews was right. Just imagine the horrors of the world. How can you have peace and reconciliation when people are denying genocide? How can you have peace and reconciliation when people do not want to see resolutions? The fact that people committed atrocities, this is on those people who support those perpetrators that committed the genocide. They need to understand that the world that we live in has to be the world where we respect each other, where we cannot murder people simply because they have a different religion or different ethnicity. That this is the global world, the globalized world, where we are interdependent. And having a resolution and accepting that resolution is critical process, is the first process in order to move forward towards reconciliation, towards building a strong society, a society where whoever you are, whatever your ethnicity or religion, can live together peacefully, as has been the case in Bosnia for many years.
More on that, what you're saying, let's not forget that 2 international courts already ruled that genocide happened in Srebrenica, yet many are still denying that fact. For instance, government of Republika Srpska refused to call it genocide, as well as government of neighboring Serbia. Based on your experience with survivors, do you think that they cannot find a peace without such recognition?
The survivors of the Srebrenica genocide, the survivors of the ethnic cleansing that happened across Bosnia and Herzegovina, in Prijedor, Visegrad, Foča, Bratislav, all these areas, the survivors of ethnic cleansing and genocide continue to live in a state of a situation where they haven't got peace because the genocide is being denied. And there is a worry as well that genocide denial is another step to another genocide. What is it that people who are denying the genocide want? Another genocide? They want to, carry out another genocide. People need to stop denying genocide and supporting those people who committed genocide and ethnic cleansing, simply because the nationalism that was promoted led to genocide, to the worst atrocity. So the state level where people are playing politics, playing those games, people, ordinary people need to understand, they need to expose those politicians and leaders, and they need to understand that they want to, live in a world with everyone. You can't live in the world, without everyone. We live in a globalized world. If you want to have that economic prosperity, if you want to, have that, that development that you want, if you want to have peace and security, then you need to understand that you need to love your neighbor. You need to understand that you need to respect each other. So ordinary people need to stand up to the leaders and say, enough is enough. Just like the Germans did, where, they rejected those people who are promoting Nazism, fascism. Ordinary people need to rise up, and it is critical that the ordinary people say that for the sake of our children, for the sake of the security of our children, we will not tolerate you or your nationalism or your fascism. We will want to fight to live in a peaceful world. And that is something which is necessary for ordinary people to do.
And in the end, what's the future of Remembering Srebrenica initiative? Are you planning to maintain all these events across the UK in years to follow?
The remembrance events in this country will continue. Our government is committed, and so are the people who were affected, and because humanity was affected. Srebrenica isn't just about those people who live in Bosnia-Herzegovina, or those people who affected the survivors. Srebrenica is about humanity. It left a dark hole in the human conscience, and therefore humanity cannot rest and must not rest if Srebrenica is not remembered and the candle is not passed. It's important that we use Srebrenica to illuminate the hearts of young people, hearts and minds of young people. So those hearts and minds, those illuminated hearts and minds, can continue to illuminate the next generation and the generation after. Our plan is that we will build the International Srebrenica Memorial Center, which will be the world's first memorial center that will honor the victims, of Srebrenica, as well as the victims of ethnic cleansing in Foča, Prijedor, Visegrad, Bratunac, all those areas across Bosnia-Herzegovina, that will teach future generations to reject evil, to reject the ideology of hate, to reject fascism and Nazism, to create a better world and better society for everyone. That center will also have a huge section for the first time on honoring women, to teach people about sexual violence. So there will be a section to honor those women who were victims of sexual violence simply because of their identity. There isn't any center in the world that honors women who have been victims of sexual violence in wars. So this center will educate young people, will honor the victims as well as survivors, will be a legacy for humanity forevermore. So remembering Srebrenica's next plan is to create an international center. Through that center, we want to do what we've done in the UK. We want to do that in the Netherlands. We want to do that in France. We want to do that in Germany, in Canada, in America, so that the world actually does come together. And this is the way to play a positive role for the world, to empower future generations.
Are you facing any obstructions to those ideas?
I think when you try to do good, evil will always obstruct you. Evil will always be there to put obstacles. But it is for good people to stand up. It is for good people to have the courage, because the mothers' tears are crying out for that courage. The mothers are calling out, their voices are crying out for that courage. And those people who are good, whatever their nationality, whichever country they live in, they do have to play their part for the future of their children, for the future of the society that they want to leave behind before they leave this world. And we all want to leave a world which is better than the world that we have been living in.